The episode begins with Paimon trying to kill Bitna, but Dayan intervenes. We see that Dayan wasn't harmed because Grory appeared and pushed Paimon away, saving Bitna. Then Bitna uses her knife to kill Paimon, sending Paimon to hell. Dayan wipes the blood off Bitna's face, and when Mando arrives with the cleaners, rushing to the scene. Next, we see Bitna slapping Grory in anger, asking why she did all of this for her. Grory reveals her true identity as Venato and tells her real mission. Bitna forgives Grory for lying and thanks her for protecting her, but Bitna says she can't forgive Grory for putting Dayan in danger. Grory laughs, saying Dayan means nothing. Bitna tells Grory she never wants to see her again and asks her to leave. Grory warns her that Dayan will die one day and leaves. Then the cleaners begin cleaning Bitna, genuinely helping her. Bitna asks them why they risked trouble to help her, and the cleaners replied that they understand her situation. Bitna thanks them and leaves, shocking the cleaners as she never thanked them earlier and comment how she is becoming a human. Later, Bitna goes to an isolated place where Grory had summoned Bail. Bitna summons Bail and Bail arrives. He's furious, mentioning that Bitna already broke one rule and killed Paimon too. Bitna, unafraid, tells Bail that he can kill her if he wants. Bail replies that Bitna should kill Dayan and take him with her. Bitna defends Dayan, saying Bail would have to fight her first. However, Bail takes away all of her powers, making her just a normal human. In the next scene, Dayan is at the police station, being questioned about Detective Munji's murder case. When asked why he was at a remote location, Dayan explains that he was called there by Munji himself and only talked from there. He emphasizes that he's also a detective and asks them to stop suspecting him before leaving. Later, Bitna asks Dayan about the questioning, and Dayan tells her he handled it well because he's a good liar. Dayan asks Bitna if she has figured out who the devil is, and she names Cen-ho, which makes Dayan angry. He is ready to kill Cen-ho, but Bitna stops him, warning that he can't face a demon as he would die before even getting revenge. Bitna also tells him that Cen-ho may not be the serial killer, but Dayan suggests they should investigate further. Dayan asks Bitna not to take any dangerous task. Bitna promises she won't leave him alone. While they're talking, Mando, feeling ignored, leaves. Down cuts an apple for Bitna, and she watches him lovingly. At the police station, the team waits for Dayan, who arrives and apologizes for being late. His senior asks about the questioning, and Dayan says it went fine. Dong-hun remarks Dayan about being a detective yet always getting beaten up, and Dong-hun and Run-Drop leaves the room. Meanwhile, Chief Judge arrives with Bitna's colleagues for lunch, and they thank him for having lunch with them. Chief Judge subtly tries to find out about Bitna but learns nothing. He then asks if Bitna's two colleagues are dating, which angers them both. In another scene, Taejae and Assemblyman waiting for Bitna, who is supposed to be arriving. They're puzzled when Bitna arrives in traditional attire and Bitna asks the Assemblyman for permission to marry his son, shocking everyone. During lunch, Bitna explains her wish to marry his son, saying she wants to become powerful and enter politics, outlining her qualities as a future great politician. Taejae questions her, saying she had already broken off her engagement and is now doing this. Bitna replies she's not interested in him and wants to marry younger son Cen-ho. The Assemblyman advises that they should get to know each other better. Frustrated, Cen-ho leaves the table, and Bitna uses the washroom as an excuse to explore the house. Bitna sees Cen-ho coming out from a secret place, and Cen-ho confronts her, asking what she saw. Bitna doesn't say anything, and Cen-ho leaves arrogantly. She takes a look of the secret place before leaving. Later, Torijiu confronts his father in his room, discussing an agreement. The Assemblyman tells Taejae that Bitna could be helpful to them, to which Taejae replies that Bitna won't be any use to him, and Assemblyman suggests that Taejae should have done the redevelopment work instead. The Assemblyman asks if Taejae wants things to return to how they were. Upset, Taejae indirectly warns his father that if he continues down this way, it will cause trouble for him, and then Taejae leaves. Dong-hun and Eun-sip meet with a reporter who used to write against Bitna. The reporter tells them that she was noticing Bitna because she used to give unfair judgments, and that's why she was after her. Dong-hun asks if she noticed anything unusual about her, and the reporter recalls that when Bitna was attacked some time ago, it was strange that no proper investigation was conducted, despite Bitna being a judge and having link from an influential family. She suspects that the Jong family might have been involved. She also mentions the hospital where Bitna was admitted after the attack. Dong-hun and Eun-sip went there but didn't find any leads. As they were returning and discussing this, they talk about how Bitna broke off her engagement, and then she was stabbed. They speculate that Tae-jae might be involved. Later, Dong-hun and Eun-sip return to the police station. Dae-in is avoiding him, but he stops him, asking him to sit and talk. Dong-hun mentions that he still has suspicion about Bitna and is determined to find out who was behind the attack on her. Dong-hun mentioned that if the team leader were alive today, she would have done the same, and he gets emotional, feeling guilty for not being able to protect the team leader. Dae-in comforts him, saying it wasn't his fault. Their mutual resentment toward each other fades. Dong-hun suggests Dae-in he meet with the psychiatrist who treated her after the attack. Dae-in visits the psychiatrist, but she initially doesn't disclose anything, citing patient confidentiality. When Dae-in insists, she shares something unusual. A man was watching Bitna and seemed guilty, as if he had done something wrong. When she approached him, he left. Dae-in shows her Tae-jae photo, but she doesn't recognize him. However, when he shows her Cen-ho photo, she immediately identifies him. Dae-in questions why she didn't tell the police, and she replies that she did, but they said the investigation had closed. Dae-in then informs Bitna about it, identifying Cen-ho as the serial killer who murdered his family and the team leader. But Bitna says it doesn't seem right because Cen-ho didn't try to dismember the Bitna or kill her completely, which was his usual pattern. She suggests they investigate further. Dae-in asks if that's why she's marrying him, and Bitna teasingly asks if he's jealous, which he tries to deny. She then takes him out for some sightseeing, and they go shopping for traditional clothing. They try different outfits, take lots of photos, and have fun. Dae-in is surprised when Bitna calls it a date, but they enjoy their time together, including eating and playing a game with an ice cream vendor where Bitna gets a little annoyed but is calmed down by Dae-in. While returning home, Dae-in thanks her for everything, which makes her happy. That night, landlady is sitting in a church, questioning God about why innocent people are dying and feeling that she should have died instead of the police officer. She cries, feeling that God hasn't answered her prayers. She prays to meet the serial killer once and cries. It starts raining, and Bitna is seen walking home in the rain. Bitna sees landlady wet in rain and helps her landlady, who has fainted. She brings her inside and tries to help with her fever. When the landlady regains consciousness, she thanks Bitna and asks if she found serial killer Jay. She tells Bitna about a rainy day similar to this one when she saw a man with flowers standing by her son's memorial. When she approached him, he ran away, and she realized he was responsible for her son's death and tried to catch him but failed. In the present, landlady tells Bitna she wanted to ask him why he killed her son and has been praying to God, seeking justice but still filled with anger and unable to forgive. The landlady becomes emotional and pleads with Bitna to catch the man. Bitna later tells Mando that she wants to assembly man home, but Mando warns her against it, saying she won't be able to handle the danger without her powers. Bitna insists, saying she can't leave the families of victims to suffer in grief. Mando tries to stop Bitna by telling Dae-in but could do it, and Bitna asks Mando only to keep Dae-in away from Grory. Later, Tae-jae is bribing another assembly man for the approval of redevelopment project. Then they go out to play golf, and the assemblyman Jong asks Tae-jae about the time Bitna is supposed to come to their house, to which he replies that she'll come at late evening. Bitna arrives home early, and the housemaid informs her that only the youngest son Cen-ho is home. She gives the maid some money to go out to get something, though the maid hesitates at first, but as Bitna tells her that she is going to marry in this family, the housemaid agrees. As soon as the housekeeper leaves, Bitna starts exploring the house. Cen-ho is watching her. Bitna continues towards a secret room. After some struggle, she manages to open the door. Inside, she sees a strange place. As she moves forward, Bitna observes a painting which seems a bit odd to her and she finds a room that appears empty. When she searches it, Bitna finds a photo there. While leaving, she notices that the candle in the painting that was previously lit is now out. Suspicious, she touches the painting, and something magical happens. She enters inside the painting. Eventually, she opens a big gate, where she finds the same weapon seen in the serial killings. Suddenly, a light turns on in front of her, revealing dismembered body parts of different people, which shocks Bitna. She closes the door, takes the weapon, and leaves. Meanwhile, we see Grory, holding a paper, walking somewhere. At the police station, everyone is discussing how the attack on Bitna happened and the same day Cen-ho took the taxi to the park Bitna was killed and how the investigation was stopped. The team leader left some money for the officers to do their work well. Late at night, Dayan tries calling Bitna but cannot reach her. He calls Mando and Mando tells him that Bitna went to Cen-ho's house. He quickly rushes to Bitna's location. Here we see that Cen-ho arrives and starts fighting Bitna, asking her how she came here. Bitna questions if he's a demon, but Cen-ho says she's talking nonsense. They both fight, and eventually, Cen-ho knocks her unconscious. When Bitna wakes up, her hands are tied, and Cen-ho is sitting with the weapon, asking how she entered his mother's room. She asks if his brother or father demon if he's not a demon, but Cen-ho refuses to answer. Bitna accuses him of attacking her in the park. Then we see a flashback where Bitna was sitting at Taijayu's house, waiting, and when no one came, she began exploring. She entered a beautifully decorated secret room which fascinated her. In Cen-ho's mother's room, she finds a photo and a video recording. In the video, a woman is crying for water, and Taijayu is making her suffer by denying water and recording her suffering. As she watches the video, Taijayu enters and stops the recording, and Bitna, visibly disturbed, leaves. Then we see Cen-ho desperate for drugs. Taijayu enters and gives him drugs on a condition and tells Cen-ho that he must do his work. Bitna, sitting in a park, messages Taijayu that she is breaking off the engagement. Suddenly, Cen-ho appears behind her and grabs her. Bitna tries to escape and begs him to let her go, promising she won't tell anyone. But Cen-ho kills her and flees, leaving Bitna dead in the park. In the present, Cen-ho keeps asking Bitna that if she remembers nothing. Cen-ho says that even if she can't remember anything, then she should just die. Bitna asks him if he knows his mother died right there, and tells Cen-ho that his mother had a very painful death. Bitna says he can take revenge for his mother and that she'll help him send the killer to hell. This enrages Cen-ho, and he moves forward to kill Bitna, grabbing her by the throat and choking her. Bitna struggles a lot, and while gasping, she tells him that he's living on the scraps of the people who killed his mother. Just then, Dayan arrives and suddenly Grory appears in front of Dayan, handing him a map of the Jong's house. She instructs him to go to the mansion and tells him about the secret passageway to go to save Bitna. Grory also gives him a knife, telling him to use it if needed. Dayan offers to come along, but Grory refuses, saying Bitna does not want to see her and Grory is furious as Bitna have no power. In a hurry, Dayan drives his car into the mansion and goes inside, where Dayan sees Cen-ho choking Bitna. Dayan stops him and start beating him. Bitna stops Dayan and start hitting Cen-ho herself. Then Dayan untied Bitna's hands and Cen-ho runs away with a weapon. Dayan suggests they should go to the hospital. Bitna reveals that it wasn't Cen-ho but actually Taijayu or his father, a serial killer or Satan. After that, Dayan hugs her. Later, when Taijayu and the assembly man were returning home, they hear police sirens. They get out of the car and see a Bitna getting medical treatment. Seeing all this, Taijayu along with his father is a little shocked. At hospital, Bitna calls Grory closer and thanks her. Bitna mentions how she slapped her twice and says Grory can slap her twice back. Grory first refuses, but then agrees to slap Bitna once and gives her a hard slap. Bitna then says they'll work together from now on. At the police station, police officers are discussing how no one in the family is willing to give a statement after an attack on the Bitna. Dong-hun asked for Daeun as he was not there. The senior tells that he sent Daeun to see Bitna at the hospital. They saw Cen-ho location on camera and they left. When Daeun went to hospital he saw villa members but not Bitna. They told Daeun that Bitna left even before they came to visit her. However, Bitna has already gone to an isolated place. In an isolated area, she sacrifices herself to summon Baal, who appears and Bitna tells Baal that she has found Satan and will send him back to hell. Then Bitna asks for her powers back. Baal warns her not to disappoint him again and gives her power back. Cen-ho, who's hiding in a hotel, keeps looking at his weapon. There's a knock on the door, and a woman says she's from the reception and that the police have called. When he opens the door, Bitna and two others appear, and Bitna hits him with a stick. In the next scene, a man's body is lying in a car, and cleaners pour gasoline over it. Bitna stands nearby, lighting a lighter and setting the car on fire. She leaves a piece of paper behind and walks away, ending the episode. Please subscribe to my channel.